And what is going on, everybody? Good morning to all of you. Happy Sunday morning to all of you. Happy Sunday for NFL football purposes. This is week 12 of the NFL season. We're back, me and Sir Angry John, Professor Angry John, for another episode of the Rise and Rush podcast. As usual, guys, we're going to give you some of our game previews, and we're also going to give you some of our betting and fantasy advice. So, John, first thoughts on this Sunday morning.
Well, first off, it's happy Thanksgiving to anyone that celebrated this past week, because now we're in the Christmas season, so get to be holly jolly, whatnot. But nevertheless, me and Luca will definitely enjoy our Sundays. There's no Jets football, so
thank fuck for that.
Thank you, God, for putting that game on a Friday.
What's up to Almighty? Hope all is well. He and I were talking. I think it wasn't yesterday. It was the day before about the Jets and all. He's like, I guess it was while I was at the game too. What's up to Jacob as well? Hope all is well with you guys. Hope you guys had a great holiday. And he and I were chit chatting, in DMs about the Jets, and I'm like, yeah, it is what it is, bro. Almighty says, I hope the Giants fucking lose. It's interesting because I'll mention this real quick. Like, I'm rooting for losses now. I don't give two shits. I'm rooting for draft position. Over. And the thing is, like, let's pull up the Tankathon real quick. Draft order.
Sure.
Because most people are saying, root for the teams that have 3 to 4 wins. Okay, the teams that have 3 to 4 wins: Washington, Tennessee, Giants, and Chicago. But somebody said on Twitter, you know what, I'm going to root for the Patriots because at the end of the day, if we finish last, we're probably going to end up with the top 5 picks. So it's tough. I guess it's a win-win if you either the Giants or Patriots lose. And I've been taunting Alex with that all the week. Taunting the Giants with that all week. I'm like, imagine the Giants when he's Alex is like, shut up, Luca. The Giants are going to win. The Patriots are going to win. I'm like, I don't know about that. I see Jacobs chanting the T-A-N-K.
T-A-N-K.
We're doing the same thing. Almighty says, watch y'all beat the Falcons. Please don't say that because that would be typical Jets.
No.
But obviously we got our games today. I know Alex isn't here, but me and John has Jaguars Texans, which is going to be a very fun game to watch. I don't think it will be in our area. I could be wrong, but obviously you have Red Zone, you can watch it. And then I have the 4 o'clock, I believe it's the CBS game, Buffalo and Philadelphia, 2 essentially, I wouldn't say juggernauts. I think Buffalo's trying to really come back into the playoff picture if they're not already. And the Eagles, who have just been riding high despite a too close to call victory last week against Kansas City. If it wasn't for that MVS Marquez Valdes-Scantling drop pass. But yeah, we'll obviously make our predictions. We'll get into our fantasy advice, and then we'll get into some betting. So, John, take it away. Jaguars, Texans.
Hold up. Before we get into that, one other thing.
Okay, tell us.
We got to announce the leaderboard because I didn't do it Monday for y'all. But
okay, I'm listening.
The ranking right now, I'm in third at 97 and 67. You're ahead of me by a game at 98 and 68.
Okay.
And then Alex is in first with a 101 and 63 record. So we are chasing him. Well, I did not count the Thanksgiving games yet. So technically, we're all 2-1 this week because we all had the same exact picks. And the Lions kind of blew a stinker at home. Gave us a loss. But we still got the Book of Wonder picks, so that is there. Shout out Hayes, as he says, bet the opposite of me if you'll win money. That's actually not true. I've been looking back at it. No, seriously, I've been looking bad at it. I've been more right than wrong this year. So Hayes, if you do that, you'll throw your money away. So,
but also, I got to mention this because I did this last week and I lost. I bet as you told me, bet the Vikings money line against the Broncos. They ended up blowing it. It was like this close.
I know. Last week wasn't a good one. I'll admit that. Last week was not a good one. I'm like,
it was actually a shorter press conference than usual, Jacob. Sure. I was about to ask. The question I was going to ask was, what do you say to the fans? What true light at the end of the tunnel is there? But he would have said something stupid, but I would have rather got the answer. But I was sitting behind actually 3 beat writers, Connor Hughes, Zach Rosenblatt, and Brian Costello. But yeah, the stadium experience was fun as always. I didn't get to go on the field because I didn't have that access for some reason, but that's all fine and well.
Yeah, I hope
Obviously, I'm at pregame, but yeah,
I hope your world was quieted down.
yeah, my world was quieted down. Alex says, "What's up from the parking lot?" I'm guessing right now he's currently with Talking Giants at their tailgate. So
Um,
what's up to him? Any
he's
Kim
definitely
Jones,
he's definitely had like 3 or 4.
any Kim Jones sightings? Jacob says.
Everyone's asking for that, but make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new here. Share out if you can. And Luca, do you want me to go first of my preview or?
Yeah, sure, man. Go right
All right.
ahead.
So we actually got a lot of good games this week. I got to admit, I looked it over, and I like the this one has division implications on it. The
Yes, it
Jacksonville
does.
Jaguars and the Houston Texans battling out for the AFC South. Now, they already faced once this year. Obviously, the division rivals. Houston won back in Week 3, so they already have beaten them this year already. And some of the storylines, can the Jaguars actually take care of division games and extend their lead? Because right now they are a game up over the Houston Texans because the Jags are 7-4, Texans are 6-3. But the Jaguars, they've beaten some good teams. They had that win against Buffalo, but then they'll have some games where they just lose to divisional games, and it's kind of cost them in the past. So it's going to be a very good test for them. They come on off a loss against the 49ers, which they got actually trounced last week by them. So this is kind of a bounce back game. And then for the Houston Texans, right? Are they real? Are they contenders? Not many rookie quarterback coach combos do this well in their first season with
That's true.
Mecca Ryans and CJ Stroud. So can they continue their success? Obviously, they had a good win against the Cardinals last week, but nevertheless, it's a bigger test for them and a much bigger game for them, obviously, because it's a divisional game and for the division lead. So I'll read you some of the team stats, right?
Mhm.
Here's the Jaguars offense, 15th in the pass, 17th in the rushing, 12th in points scored. Then their defense is 29th against the pass, 4th best against the run, and 11th in points scored. We compare that with the Texans, right? 2nd in passing, so they're right behind the Dolphins for that. Rushing offense 23rd, points scored 10th. Then you look at their defense, passing's 24th. Their rushing defense is 9th best in the league, and points scored is 13th. So before we get into more, we'll get some comments. Hayes saying the show is so much better for some
This morning
reason.
for some reason.
That's cruel. But Almighty saying, I got Stroud started. Yeah, no, Stroud's been really good, especially in fantasy, which will definitely, I got my fantasy stuff for you guys. So if you also want to ask any questions, you guys can. But there is obviously more to get to. And
Yes.
before I go into my matchups and positional battles, there are some notes that I had for both the Jags and the Houston Texans. So let me just pull up some of the notes I had. But guys, remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new here, because we do appreciate it. Okay. And here are the notes. So we'll start off with the Jags, right?
Yep.
One of the players that I really love, we're going to start with their defense here. One of the players that has been a beast, and I think he's probably one of the best inside linebackers in the league, is Devin Lloyd. Okay. He's not a pass rushing linebacker by any stretch. He's very good at stopping the run. And he doesn't miss many tackles. He only has 7 missed tackles on the season. So he is been great. He was even, I don't know, Luca, if you remember the game for against the Jets that we went to last year.
Yeah.
But he was all
He
over
was
the
all
field.
over the place.
So there is definitely that. Hey, I'll read to this comment. Hayes says, John, Tommy DeVito will make you proud. Why? Either way, it doesn't matter. It's the Giants and Pats are still both bad.
Yeah.
But Willie, I haven't seen you here before, but I'll definitely answer your fantasy question. Justin Fields versus CJ Stroud. Now, here's the thing with both, right? So we are talking about Stroud, but I'll go with Fields for you, right? He's been really, really good in fantasy value. He's finished the top 8 in the past 3 weeks. I actually think he was not last week, but the week before that, he was the first ranked. But Fields has been much better as a passer in recent weeks too, and we know what he can do with his legs. So you have that right. The numbers are there, like all the yards and stuff. And this week not tonight, but tomorrow they got the Monday night game. They're in Minnesota. They have actually had a tougher pass defense. They're 6th lowest in passer rating, so there's that. And the Vikings, Brian Flores loves the blitz. Well, Justin Fields really does struggle with the blitz, as that's one of the weaker points. Is he has a lot of trouble identifying it and stuff like that. Now, CJ Stroud, right? I think he's going to cook this week because he's the 6th ranked quarterback in fantasy points, right? He's actually 8th in passer rating as well. And CJ Stroud, he's a very good deep ball thrower. Okay, he's probably one of the best in the NFL at a young age already. I think Jacksonville, not the best secondary. I think your best bet is to start CJ Stroud this week. I think just because of the matchup wise, what he's facing. Hayes says, John, what is a
sad positional battle? I mean, you could do obviously I guess maybe he's referring to the Giants game, DeVito and Mac Jones.
Yeah, no, probably.
Almighty jokes. Fields to the Jets. Hayes answered his Willie's question saying Stroud. Yep. I mean, I would go with Stroud too. I was looking through the stats yesterday, and the Jaguars are actually one of the worst passing defenses in all of football.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. There's only really I like the Darius Williams in their secondary.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's really not much to work with. They should be a lot better, talent-wise. You look at their depth chart, right? I think Tyson Campbell's actually out, but Darius Williams has been fine. Cisco, I expect much more out of, but he's been up and down. But the good part is for the Jags, they're like I said, Devin Lloyd's been really, really good as a linebacker. Okay, he doesn't get enough praise in this league at all. Remember, with the Jags, they play a 3-4 defense, and he plays alongside of Luca in the middle. So both guys actually, he's been pretty good too. They're very quick to the ball. They are very fast, and they can stop the run. And Lloyd was a first-round pick back in 2022. So this is what they were expecting out of him, and he has been, fantastic for them this year. I think in that draft, actually, Luca, because I was looking up the 2022 draft, the only linebackers that were taken ahead of him were Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. So, but I think he's better than both of them. PFF has him an overall grade of 77.6. So that's a very good grade. Remember, elite is outstanding is above 90. 77.6 is very good. But he's been, an excellent tackler. Okay. And he just has a knack for being around the ball. And again, he's not a blitzing linebacker. He's got 115 tackles, 3 picks, and 8 passes defended this year. So he's been a really good bright spot and very probably one of the best Jacksonville players on this team. And Hayes, God,
I got a note for you, John. I just saw this from Schefter 19 minutes ago. Here's a note for CJ Stroud. Texans rookie CJ Stroud needs 263 passing yards today against the Jaguars to surpass Justin Herbert for the most passing yards by a rookie in his first 11 games, 3,224. Now, I'm going to check something out, too. I want to see where CJ Stroud is with touchdowns because Baker Mayfield set the record, if I believe, in his rookie season. So Stroud right now is at 17 passing touchdowns. Mayfield in his rookie season, he threw for 27. Definitely reachable. Definitely reachable.
And we'll definitely get to Stroud too because obviously this is a really good quarterback matchup. But going back to Jacksonville, so we talked about something that was really good for them. Now we got to talk about something that's not so good for them, and that has to do on the offensive line. Okay. they, it's funny because they do have a lot of talent on the offensive line. They just
Right.
haven't clicked. The line right now is Cam Robinson at left tackle, Walker Little at left guard, Luke Fortner at center, Brandon Sheriff, the right guard, and Anton Harrison, the first round pick in this year for them at right tackle. But they also did trade for Ezra Cleveland this year from Minnesota, a guy I wanted, but he's not even starting for them. He's more depth. But with one thing I will say, the left tackle has been not so, hasn't been solid this year. It's been an
Right.
average to below average at best. And that's weird because a lot of talent. And one thing I noticed, so Walker Little was a second round pick. He was a tackle for them, but they moved him to guard. I don't know if that's the right decision because remember, Cam Robinson, he signed the contract last season, but then he got suspended
Right.
at the start of this year for performance enhancement drugs. So that really did hurt them. And, they've had Little at tackle before who probably was better than Robinson by the numbers. So I don't know if him coming back has hurt them a little. I mean, last week they were fine. It was against Tennessee though.
Right.
But again, there's some, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think they did kind of try and fix it, but it wasn't broke. So I think it's kind of hurting now. Trevor Lawrence actually, I was reading a stat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found this very interesting. So, and I think Alex will actually kind of appreciate this because he's a big Giants fan, obviously. So I think there was a stat that said that Trevor Lawrence actually has less time to get the ball out of his hands than Daniel Jones when he was playing.
Really?
Yeah, one of their beat reporters tweeted that out. I didn't bookmark it, so I don't have the exact number, but I was like, whoa, like that's crazy if that's true. And I'm pretty sure it's true because their offensive line has been horrific in pass protection. And Brad, what's up, man? Appreciate you. I always text you. So again, their offensive line has been really bad, especially at the tackle spots. And you just expect a lot more out of it. Now, going into this game, right? How are the Jags going to win this game? Their defense has been their better part. And Luca mentioned CJ Stroud having probably one of the best rookie seasons ever. And in week 3, like when these two teams faced, he completed 66% of his passes, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So
Can I ask, wasn't that a blowout victory of some sorts?
Yes. And it was funny because like the Jags had like 400 yards total. And they just could not score for some reason. They had a few drops. They had some turnovers. So not a good day that day. And up until week 11, Stroud had only 2 picks, but he had 3 last week against Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona is not a good defense, especially in the secondary. So he kind of had an off game, but he still got, he just had like a hiccup, a little rookie hiccup, I'd say.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they have to contain him in the pocket. But even then, Stroud has been really good. He's been one of the better deep ball passers in the NFL, in my opinion. So
True.
that's been something to take note of, if you may. And then now we look even more to the H-Town Texans, because nobody had this team where they were. They were thought as bottom feeders, and so many people had the disrespect for CJ Stroud. Now, I didn't think he'd be this great. I didn't think he'd be as bad as people said. I thought if you gave him time, maybe he'd be like this in 2-3 years.
I remember when we were all concerned about the offensive line and things
that. I remember going into we were talking about them in preseason. Like we were worried about their protection. And, while that's still a bit of a concern, it is not it's not something that's phased CJ Stroud. Now, do make a quick note of some of the inactives. I forgot to before the game. I know Tyson Campbell, I believe he's been downgraded to out. But the Texans are without Dameon Pierce, Noah Brown, one of their receivers.
Let me say this. Pierce is actually expected to play.
Oh, they have him as playing now. I thought he was listed out. Excuse me then. And then I believe Jimmy Ward has been listed as out. Trying to look at tweets earlier, but on the defense. But Luca mentioned C.J. Stroud, and obviously C.J. Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. This is a really good quarterback matchup. Two guys that are going to be around for at least a decade, in my opinion. But C.J. Stroud, he gets a ton of pressure from his offensive line, and yet he's fourth in passing yards at 2,962, 12th in passing touchdowns. Okay, he's a gunslinger, man. He will take chances. He can push the ball downfield excellently. So, him and DeMeco Ryans, they need this win kind of to stay alive in this AFC South. Okay, and they also, this is pretty much this should have the atmosphere of a playoff game.
Oh yeah.
And CJ Stroud, and DeMeco Ryans, they have Stroud leading the offense, Ryans kind of leading the defense. That's kind of really complemented well because both sides of the ball they've had their struggles, but they've exceeded really well this year. So I mean, Stroud you might have him he's definitely offensive rookie of the year. You might have him as an MVP dark horse, depending on how far the Texans go. But like I said, it's huge implications. I was trying to think of the word there for a sec, but
I believe right now the Texans are in the 6th seed for the AFC playoff picture. They're ahead of Pittsburgh. They're in the wild card essentially.
That brings me to my next point because you look at the Texans schedule, Luca. After this game, right? This is probably their toughest game. Because after this, next week they're home against the Broncos. Then they're in MetLife to face the Jets. Then they're on the road against Tennessee. They're home against the Browns. They're home against Tennessee. And then they're in Indianapolis. So they still got 3 more divisional games after this. But that is not a tough schedule at all.
No, it's not.
That is a very favorable schedule for them. So that works a lot in their favor, in my opinion. But the biggest thing for them is those division games. They got to win those division games because, AFC South, they always beat up on each other. But, but regardless, as long as they can take at least they'll probably win 4 or 5 of those games, at least, in my opinion. So
yeah, definitely.
Stroud and the Texans is Almighty says, I'm starting Stroud all the way. Yeah, you should. I mean,
absolutely.
The only tough passing defense really is probably the Jets, but even that, it's
listen, he'll put up the yards regardless when the defense is out on the field for 45 minutes.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. He's going to get a lot of volume in that game, as Luca and I will definitely agree on that. And you look at also the defense, right? They have been very quietly good. Like, they're not elite, but they're not horrible. Okay,
right.
they've been pretty solid in my opinion. They did lose one of their rookies this year. Actually, I forget. It was Dylan Horton.
Yes.
They lost him this week, so that's kind of a big loss. But nevertheless, Will Anderson been a fine rookie. I think he only has 3 sacks, but he's still been pretty solid. Jonathan Greener's probably been their best defensive lineman this year. He's been very good, a very good player, very underrated player too, and he's having a strong season. I'll get into him more in the matchups as well. But again, very good game. Very good player in this game.
Yeah.
That, Jacksonville definitely has to watch out for in this one, especially with their tackle problems. And you mentioned that with the Texans, right? And one thing I was actually suggesting, right, or I was thinking they could do to improve this roster, and I don't know. Luca, remind me. They're linebacking core, right? So Blake Cashman's also been really good. And their rookie Henry To'oTo'o has been really good. They also have Christian Harris, who's very young and been a promising player. But I was thinking they could use a veteran caller in there. And Darius Leonard just got released by the Colts this week. Now I don't know if there's anything off the field. I don't think there was. That was a problem.
I remember I was reading something along the lines that He a couple of weeks ago he was upset that his playing time was cut for
Yeah,
some reason.
I read that
And
too.
that's been the reason so far. I don't think he's signed with the team, which is interesting.
I think the Texans would be a really good spot, especially if you're Darius Leonard and you really want to stick it to your old team that
That's
cut
true.
you. So I like that because they can use another veteran in there. They're very young on the defensive side. So I think that would be a good ideal thing for them to do. Maybe grab another linebacker to help. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, the Texans are they're a better run defense than pass defense, but Leonard's had some good coverage skills over the years, so that could really help them out. But some of the more intriguing matchups, as I mentioned, these players already: Cam Robinson versus Jonathan Greenard. So it's actually Luca was telling me earlier. Cam Robinson ranks 41st out of 87 tackles. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he's been pretty much average. I mentioned the suspensions earlier, right? He's not, he just hasn't looked the part, and that's kind of hurt Trevor Lawrence, and kind of why the numbers don't reflect his winning at some point. But Greener's had 21 pressures, 7 sacks, 6 quarterback knockdowns. He leads the Texans in pressures and sacks, so he's been he's been a very phenomenal player for them. He's
Yeah.
been very under the radar, and that's going to be a very big matchup that Cam Robinson's going to have, because that means Will Anderson will probably get the rookie Anton Harrison, so it'll be a battle of rookies at that spot. And then the other matchup, CJ Stroud against Mike Caldwell's defense. I mentioned these linebackers. They are fast. They are very quick to the ball, so that is going to be something that they're going to have to watch under Mike Caldwell's defense, right? That he likes for them to be disruptive. And those are the two leaders on that defense. So that is going to be another key matchup. As we mentioned, the stats already for Stroud and Luca and Lloyd. We mentioned some of their stats already as well. So I'll go into the positional battles. The quarterback, I love both these quarterbacks, but I got to be unbiased because my affinity for Trevor Lawrence. But
Yeah.
I'd say I love CJ Stroud more. This dude is
True.
the real deal. He might be one of the best having the best rookie seasons ever. I can't dispute that.
I just want to say real quick, I think Trevor Lawrence is really good. I don't think he's hit that elite tier yet because I think he struggled in some key matchups, especially against teams like the Niners. Like
Yeah.
he crapped the bed there.
He crapped the bed. He did. In terms of the running backs, this was a tough one, but I did end up picking the Jaguars here. And that's more so of who their starter is. I like Travis Etienne a lot. I've been a little disappointed with Tank Bigsby. They've wasted a 3rd-round pick on him. And he looked better in the preseason, but I don't know what it is, man.
They've also thrown in Dearness Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they have used him too. So you have that, but and it was really tough because Devin Singletary's been really hot, and Dameon Pierce, he just hasn't looked the part, but Singletary's kind of picked up the slack. But I went with ETN because he's been good all season round, so I gave that edge to them. In terms of the wideouts, I gave the Texans the edge here. I mentioned earlier that Noah Brown is out, who's been really good, but they still got Tank Dell, who's been really good as a rookie this year, a 3rd-round pick. I don't remember when you guys mentioned him or who mentioned him, but it was one of you guys, and you got me into him, and I started watching more of his film. He's an excellent receiver, man. Really good downfield.
Really good vertical thread.
Yeah, it really is. Nico Collins has also been really good this year too. I can't forget about him. And pretty much they've been, great tandem to go along with the tight end battle, which I also gave the Texans. Dalton Schultz. This one was a tough one too. Ingram, he's just not really a red zone threat, but Dalton Schultz, exactly what they needed so far this year. He's been one of the better tight ends in recent weeks. So this is why I chose him. And Almighty says he's telling me get the F out of here, choosing the Texans receivers over the Jags. It's true. Calvin Ridley has been disappointing, right?
He's been very
very inconsistent. Zay Jones has been injured. He was back last week. He's been good. Christian Kirk is sometimes hit or miss. I'm telling you, man, the Texans receivers have been better.
They're more consistent.
They have been way more consistent. You got to watch it then. You got to watch the film. Brad says that Lawrence played as well as the Niners defense allowed him to play. No, that's true. No one wants to go against the Niners defense. We just saw what they did to Geno the other night on Thanksgiving. So
That can I say something real quick? And I
Mhm.
don't mean to interrupt your segment by any stretch of imagination. Thanksgiving games were lack of there to be desired, whatever the quote is.
yeah, yeah. He's Almighty says, imagine telling me to what I'm telling you, the Texans receivers are better than the Jags this year.
A lot to be desired. That's what I want to say. But if you
I
want
know,
to
I
continue,
know you're messing. I know. Once you said
yeah,
watch film,
gotta
that's
go.
why I said it too because of Salah. That's why I said
Yes,
it. But in terms of the offensive line, these O lines have not been good for either side. Um, but I gave the Texans the edge here just because Laramie Tunsil, I still like him at left tackle, and they also getting their second round pick, Juice Scruggs back. He's going to slide in at
yes,
center, so that's going to be a big help for them. They liked him a lot, but there's been some struggles with George Fant on the right side. He's been bad in the run game. Okay, Titus Howard has really struggled this year. He's been moved to left guard. He was banged up, but he's been awful this year, so that's been really disappointing for them. Brad saying, fun fact, there are 3 teams that haven't beaten a team above 500 so far this season: the Commanders, the Giants, and the Cowgirls. Did the Dolphins done that either? Or have
um,
they just not beat any playoff teams?
they did they beat the Bills? No, I don't think they beat the
No,
Bills.
they
We got
lost.
blown. Um,
I don't know if
I
they
mean,
beat.
if the Raiders are technically, I don't think the Raiders are over 500.
No.
Um, lost to the Eagles. They beat the Broncos, who I think are at least at 500 or close to
Okay, so
500.
maybe that's it. Maybe
One of those teams.
maybe if you're counting that.
Yeah.
But Almighty saying the only decent game on Thanksgiving was Packers Lions. I don't even know if that was a decent game. I felt that was pretty done with quickly. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of the defensive line, I gave that edge to the Texans. Okay, I really like Jonathan Greenard. And Will Anderson's still an up and coming pass rusher who's only getting better. He's had his struggles here and there, but they're still effective players. And even Sheldon Rankins, we know what a good run stopper he is. Malik Collins as well, coming over from San Francisco. So they've been pretty good in the run this year. So I gave that edge to the H-Town squad. The linebackers, though, that's where I'm giving the edge to Jacksonville. Okay, I mentioned what Devin Lloyd and Aluakon can do in the middle. They also got some high-end talents with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. Remember, Walker was a first overall pick. Allen, another first rounder back in 2019. So those guys can get after the quarterback, right? And then in terms of the secondary, it's funny because I don't like what Jacksonville's secondary has done. And I know
Hmm.
the Texans are probably statistically better, but I still gave the edge to Jacksonville just because I
Hmm.
don't really see anyone. I mean, they have the second year man, Derek Stingley. Jalen Petrie is also there. He's a second year man, but they just don't really you know, they got some depth with Shaquille Griffin and Desmond King, but you expect them to be starters, and they're not even starters. But Darius Williams has been really good this year, in my opinion. He's made a lot of plays on the ball, so there's good. I expect more out of the safety group between Jenkins and Cisco, but nevertheless, and like I said, they're going to be a lot more snaps for Trey Herndon today. He's usually their nickel corner, but I believe Tyson Campbell was regarded as out or listed as out today, so they're going to have to use him. And then the special teams, I gave it to Jacksonville. Not more so the return game because Jamal Agnew has he's not really their returner anymore. It's now Parker Washington and Dearness Johnson, but they haven't really impressed. And that's not why I gave it to them. More so, Brandon McManus, a decent veteran, and then Logan Cook has been their punter. Felt like he was a better punter than
Yeah.
Cam Johnson, in my opinion. So that's why I went with them. What up to Evan is thanks for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning. And Almighty saying the only decent game on Thanksgiving was the Packers and Lions. But
Well, yeah, we mentioned that.
excuse me, Luca. I gotta. If you want to take over for one sec, I gotta.
Yeah, he's just gotta crack his back. But also, I wanted to mention, I saw this because I have the pass rush win rate stats and all that.
Mhm.
Again, say pass rush win rate 4 or 5 times, but fourth in the NFL in edge pass rush win rate is actually Will Anderson at 26%. He's double teamed 22% of the time. This is updated as of Sunday,
Mhm.
so obviously maybe the rankings may have changed a bit. Also, Jonathan Greenard is top 15 in pass rush win rate, 22%. I don't see anybody from Jacksonville who's
Yeah.
in that category. Defensive line. Sheldon Rankins is fourth in pass rush win rate at 17%, but he's double teamed 59% of the time. Malik Collins is also top 15 in pass rush win rate among defensive tackles, 13% pass rush win rate. So those are your. I'm going to mention some other names. Laramie Tunsil ranks top 15 in pass rush, pass block win rate when it comes to tackles. Obviously for Houston. I don't see anybody from Jacksonville in here in terms of interior offensive line. Jarrett Patterson is actually top 20 in pass block win rate. But there's some Houston has been popping off the charts. Not so much Jacksonville.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned the double teams with Will Anderson because he does get doubled a lot. So that is good to note. But Mr. Luca, I think it's time we do our stat prediction leaders.
Si, senor.
So first, we'll go lead passer. I got CJ Stroud today, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks.
I do see this being a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go off the top of my head. I'm gonna go 290 yards for Stroud, 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alex has 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm just gonna mark this right here in our predictions. And I'm going to make this a shade of red. But anyways, John, leading rusher.
The lead rusher today, I got Devin Singletary, the hot man, 20 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown.
So you think the limit, you know what? Did you make that prediction based off Dameon Pierce?
No, I still think he's gonna. I still think
he's gonna be limited with the snaps.
I think he's been a better runner than Pierce.
That's fair. So Singletary, I'm going to go with him as well. Obviously, the Texans have the best ninth best rushing defense. I'm going to go, let's see, 13 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown.
All right.
Leading receiver.
For that, I went with Tank Dell, 9 receptions, 140 yards, and a touchdown.
Seems probable. Let me think. I want to differentiate, but I also want to say something that makes sense. Obviously, Dell's been their top receiver. I mean, they have also veteran options in Robert Woods and Nico Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? I might just stick with Dell. I mean, Tank Dell is obviously, we mentioned he's a great vertical threat. So I'm going to go 8 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown.
Oops, I accidentally made a mistake in the doc, but I will fix that.
Lead tackler is next when you're ready.
I got Devin Lloyd, 14 tackles today.
Interesting.
I accidentally wrote my lead sack man twice, but
that's all right. Let's see. You know what? Give me Blake Cashman, the former Jet.
Blake.
He's obviously been played really well, but I'm gonna go on 10 tackles for Cashman.
And he's actually going to be my lead sack man today. 1.5 sacks for Blake Cashman. How about that? How about giving some praise for the former Jet? We said he's had a really good year.
He has. And I'd like to also mention, just want to mention some other things. Alex has the leading rusher as Travis Etienne at 19 carries and 89 yards and a touchdown. He has the leading receivers, Nico Collins, 5 catches, 78 yards and a touchdown. He has the lead tackler as Cashman for 8 tackles instead of my 10. And he also has Josh Allen either way with 1.5 sacks. But it's interesting because these two quarterbacks know how to get the ball out really quick. But I'm going to go Jonathan Greenard. I think he gets a sack today. I'm not going to do any ties. Don't worry about that, John. No ties.
Thank the Lord.
So,
all right, now it's the final score pick. I got Houston winning this one 31-28.
Alex has this game as 23-21. Houston, very probable. I'm also going to take Houston, but I'm going to think of a score. I think there is a chance that the Texans put up 30. They're not going to put up 40. I think I'm going to go 34 to this is going to be a close game. Divisional rival, you think that. 34-28. It's going to be a bit of a shootout in my opinion. So Jacksonville will lose, Houston, Texas. And how much of a difference is the games in terms of Houston and Jacksonville. How far off are they in terms of division?
What do you mean? Oh, in terms of the division? Well, remember Jacksonville is at 7-4 and Houston's at 6-3.
So they could be no. They wouldn't even be tied if Houston won because Houston is the tiebreaker.
Yeah, they automatically get it. So Jacksonville, I feel like needs this more.
Absolutely. And obviously it's just gonna be a shootout because it's in a dome, obviously. Armin, what's up? Hope all is well. Feeble made a mistake. Dan, what else is new? Brad going after Feeble.
It's all right.
Diva Alex
have
is
Armin go after
off
Brad.
cursing the Giants today after cursing the Jets the other day. Listen, he wants to lose, but we're rooting for the Giants to win. Just a little note there. But just my initial thoughts, as I said, this is going to be a shootout. Obviously, it's a battle between the offensive lines as well. I think obviously John mentioned that the Jags really struggle with the pass defense aside from Darius Williams. Andre Cisco hasn't played well. Their safeties haven't played well. Their other corners haven't played well. So I think C.J. Stroud as a quarterback, he gets the ball out quickly. Maybe the Jags throw a couple blitzes in there. They did so to Will Levis last week, and he kind of got destroyed. But I think Stroud is a little more mobile and he's a better pocket presence. So I think that's going to help out. And I expect Stroud to sling the ball today. Same thing with Trevor Lawrence, but I think Stroud comes away victorious today. But
okay.
I'm gonna change up the banner real quick because we're gonna go into the Bills and the Eagles. Very important game for both sides as well as the Bills are trying to get back into playoff position. I'll check out the standings in a second. Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles obviously top of the division. They're also top of the NFC. We're gonna get the NFL playoff picture here, and the Bills currently stand. They are. Now, this is a packed AFC, so a lot of different teams with mostly 500 records. It's Dolphins, Ravens, Chiefs, Jaguars, Browns, Texans. The Bills are out of the playoffs by, I would say, a half a game because the Steelers right now is 6-4, third in the AFC North at the 7th seed. The 8th seed is the Bills. They really need a win today, especially if the Colts end up winning because the Colts are facing the Buccaneers. The Colts are actually favored. But at this very well moment, the Bills need a win today to at least stay around the bubble because again, this is a big AFC. If you lose one game, you get thrown down the standings a lot. If
pretty
you
much,
yeah, because there's so many teams. Like we didn't think that at the start. We were like thinking, oh, like there's a lot of good teams, but Denver wasn't starting really good. The Raiders obviously had a bad start. The Bengals right now, obviously with Joe Burrow out.
Remind me, they're in Philly today, correct?
That is correct. In Philly. So just to get to look at it, the Bills obviously coming off a blowout win last week versus the New York Jets. That was relatively easy to do, obviously, with a team with no offense. But the Philadelphia Eagles had a close one to call. They nearly lost to the Chiefs last week. But Jalen Hurts didn't have his greatest performance. Neither did Patrick Mahomes, you'd expect. I thought it was going to be a shootout of some sorts. But apparently that was not the case. Mahomes had 177 yards in the pass game. And in the pass game for Jalen Hurts, 150 yards. So it was more about the ground game, and it was exclusively more about defense. And obviously, the one play that everybody's going to remember is the Marquez Valdes-Scantling drop. But anyways, against the two, I already broke down the Bills a little bit. Obviously, 2 weeks after firing Ken Dorsey, the passing game looked really good last week against the Jets, especially when they had the ball a lot. I think they're going to have the ball a decent chunk against the Eagles. But Buffalo, they have to stay in. They have to stay close to the bottom of the wild card and stay within the hunt with the win today. Philadelphia obviously keep on winning. Had a close game last week, but they're going to remain the top of the NFC. And the Eagles, I'm just going to check some records here. The Niners are 8-3. The Eagles are 9. The Eagles are 9-1. But getting into Buffalo Bills stats, so they're 7th in the passing game, 254.5. They pass the ball a lot. Their rushing offense actually ranks 11th, not too bad as opposed to past years. 117.7 rushing yards per game. Their points offense is tied with the Lions. They are 26.7 points per game. Just in general, their passing defense ranks 9th, 204.2 yards per game allowed on the passing defense. Rushing defense, they allow 110.5 rushing yards per game. That's going to be big against the Eagles, who are one of the best rushing offenses across the league. They have so many guys who could run the football, whether it be Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, or Kenny Gainwell. So that's obviously a big factor, and that could be a potential weakness. Points defense, they rank 5th. They allow 17.3 points per game. Getting to the Philadelphia Eagles side, passing offense, they rank 12th, 234.8 yards in the passing game per game. Rushing offense, as I mentioned, a multitude of guys who can run the football very well, especially behind a dominant offensive line with like
Yeah.
the Eagles. 8th, 128.1 yards per game on the ground. Points offensively, they rank 5th, 27.3 points scored per game. Passing defense, they're one of the worst, 28th, 248.1 yards surrendered in the passing game per game, which obviously equates to a Bill's strength. So we'll see how that works out. Rushing defense, they're first, 76.5 rushing yards allowed per game. Their rushing defense is elite. Obviously, you have guys like Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, guys at the middle who could really defend. They also have some decent linebackers. Reed Blankenship, I know, comes up a lot in those. I'm guessing in those high safety, one high safety, maybe they throw him the box looks because he usually registers a lot of tackles and he's played really well this year. But there's points defense. They allow 21.2 points per game, which ranks 15th in the NFL. Just to pull up some numbers, which are going to go hand in hand with the matchups. I obviously mentioned the pass rush win rate, run block win rate, and all that stuff. But to get in between the two teams, Hassan Riddick ranks 5th in the NFL in pass rush win rate, 26%. Obviously ranks 5th behind guys like Will Anderson, Bradley Chubb, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons.
He is so underrated at times. He is an elite pass rusher.
Very much so. And they actually had him. They rank Riddick as like 34th out of like 100. Let me look up the number here because I was looking at it yesterday. I'm like, they only rank him this high. He should be higher. So we're gonna look up the edge rushers per. I know Pro Football Focus is not everything, but the rankings are interesting to look at. Let's look at edge defenders. Obviously, the best are Garrett, Bosa, and Crosby. He's not among the best, but as John said, he's very underrated. Reddick, among the NFL edge rushers, he ranks 24th out of 105. But again, as John equated to, he's underrated. He has 8.5 sacks on the year. I don't have his pressure rate or pressures. But again, double team percentage, he ranks, he has 17%. But some other guys between the two teams, Buffalo, Leonard Floyd, 15th in pass rush win rate among edge rushers, 21%, but he's double teamed 15% of the time. Another guy for Philly who is in the top 20, that is Josh Sweat, 21% pass rush win rate and 20% of the double teams going to the defensive line. Jalen Carter has had quite the season. Jalen Carter, 20% pass rush win rate, 58% of the time he's double teamed, and he ranks top amongst defensive tackles and pass rush win rate amongst guys like Donald, Lawrence, Rankins, DeForest Buckner, Quinn Williams, Ed Oliver, all those guys. So he's had quite the season. Maybe he's potentially defensive rookie of the year. We'll see about that. But to get some other guys, Ed Oliver, top 10 in pass rush win rate among defensive tackles is 15%, 56% of the double teams. Also, Milton Williams is top 20 in pass rush win rate among defensive tackles. Kind of an unknown name, personally, to me. I mean, I know of him, but he's not much of a high key mark name. 11% pass rush win rate, 50% in the double team percentage. Getting to the offensive tackles in the pass block win rate, ranked at number 6, Lane Johnson, who's been a steady force for the Philadelphia Eagles. He suffered some injuries, but his consistency remains all well. He's 93% of the time 93% pass block win rate, ranking 6th behind guys like Trent Williams, Rasheed Walker, Deion Dawkins, Braxton Jones, and Brian O'Neill. Double team percentage, his percentage is 29%. As for no offensive other tackles regarding them, interior offensive line, Philadelphia, you also have Landon Dickerson, ranking 4th amongst interior linemen in pass rush win rate. 63% of the time he double teams, 97% pass block win rate. As for any other tackle and offensive lineman, there's not much there. Run stop win rate, no Eagles or Bills listed. As for defensive tackles, the run stop win rate, no other players mentioned, but run block win rate, Lane Johnson ranks at the top 83% of the time. Landon Dickerson ranks at the top interior offensive lineman, run block win rate, but also to throw in Jordan Mailata is also top 9 in run block win rate, 80%. Same thing with Spencer Brown, who's actually kind of, getting better this season. His development has been really good for them. 79% run block win rate. Jason Kelsey has also been in the top 10 in terms of run block win rate. Obviously, he's been a constant force among that offensive line. But to get to the team win rate rankings, the Buffalo Bills this far, they rank second in pass block win rate. They rank 16th in, that was pass rush win rate. Run stop win rate, 16th. They rank 7th in pass block win rate and 5th in run block win rate. So the Buffalo Bills have got it done offensively with that offensive line. The Philadelphia Eagles, they rank 5th in pass rush win rate, 2nd in run stop win rate. Obviously, they're the best run defense in the NFL. The pass block win rate, 65%, and the run block win rate ranks first. So that's why their ground game is so dominant in part to an offensive line.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off,
Right.
but other than I was looking at some of the ratings and rankings, the only team that has a better offensive line this year than the Eagles is the Detroit Lions. But other than that, there is nobody that's better. They have been so dominant, and it really, in my opinion, it starts all that interior, just because you got obviously Jason Kelsey's been there for God knows. It's been what, 2011?
Yeah, something like that.
Landon Dickerson's been there, and Cam Jurt. Like, they are just so excellently technically sound and just also good. So
well coached, and they know how to develop talent.
Mhm.
That's what it comes down to on that offensive line. But getting into some of the matchups, obviously, one player to keep an eye on is Stephon Diggs going up against the 28th ranked pass defense. Darius Slay is ranked 43rd among 116 cornerbacks. I would expect maybe to rotate. The Bills try to rotate Stephon Diggs between Slay and James Bradbury as well.
Also, maybe this is important too, because they actually elevated Andy Isabella from the practice squad this week. So maybe they'll try and use him more. But
he's got a speed element to him.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, they might, try and throw some speed at them this week, because I know the Eagles have struggled against speedy receivers.
So, yeah, obviously throw him in the slot. They don't list a true slot corner. I looked at the depth chart, but it looks like they actually listed Bradley Roby. I didn't even know he was on the Eagles. They also throw in Eli Ricks. I know Josh Joby is sometimes featured as well, so it's kind of maybe a rotation. But also, this is an interesting one. Dalton Kincaid versus Zach Cunningham. Cunningham ranks 37th out of 81 with linebackers. Dalton Kincaid, obviously with Dawson Knox out, is the main featured tight end. And it's going to be interesting to see how they guard against that. Obviously, Kincaid's a vertical threat. He can go across the middle as well. Big safety blanket for Josh Allen. Obviously, you go towards the sidelines as well. Kincaid is a big body featured weapon. Also, you have a big problem for the Buffalo Bills, potentially big problem, is the running backs out of the backfield. Now, the Eagles don't really have any tight ends that are notable. They have Jack Stoll as their tight end, one because Dallas Goedert is hurt. But this can come down to DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, which running back is coming out of the backfield for passing downs. DeAndre Swift, I listed because he's the main back coming out of the backfield. Tyrell Dodson is actually number one amongst linebackers. He's had a really good season. I don't know much of the other numbers, so we're going to look at that. Dodson, I think, he is a product of theirs. He's relatively new. He was drafted in, let's see, he's 25 years old. Let me see, because they're not showing when he was drafted. I'll try to look that up right now.
Dodson was, let me see. Terrell Dodson was
He was undrafted in 2019.
Yeah.
He was undrafted in 2019. That's why I couldn't find a drafted stat. But undrafted out of Texas A&M, Bills picked him up in 2019. He's been essentially, I think he went from special teams to now he's a starting linebacker, obviously with Matt Milano hurt. So some stats on Dodson. He's one of the best pass coverage grades is for them. 7.6 yards per completion, 7.2 yards per target, a rating of 115.0, a completion percentage of 94.4%. But I guess the Bills can sometimes throw in a lot of those zone packages, but he's kept the yards minimally low. And amongst him, when it comes to starting games, he started 4 of them this year. His missed tackle percentage is about 10.4%. That's not bad. But obviously that can get better. He's one of the best pass coverage linebackers across the NFL, and that's he has a challenge with DeAndre Swift coming to that backfield.
Right.
But moving to some other matchups, you have Landon Dickerson, as we already mentioned, 11th among 79 guards, versus Ed Oliver. I mentioned the interior pass rush win rate with Ed Oliver. He's also a really good run stuffer. 48th out of 123 defensive linemen, but Dickerson has his hands full. Ed Oliver has his hands full. Obviously, best of the best going at each other. Also have Deion Dawkins, who ranks the best, or at least one of the best, in pass block win rate, 13th of 81 among PFF tackles. Josh Sweat, 36 out of 105 edge rushers. So battle of the trenches, essentially. I mean, this is going to be a bit of a shootout, as I expect, but it is going to be battle of the trenches. Obviously, the Bills have a good defensive line, so do the Eagles, but we'll get into the position battles right now. Buffalo, I think, in my opinion, I think Josh Allen is a better quarterback. Not that that says anything bad about Jalen Hurts, but I think Josh Allen is more of the gunslinger. Not that Jalen Hurts doesn't have a great arm, but I think, obviously both quarterbacks have the dual threat ability with them. But I feel Allen is more of the gunslinger, and that the Eagles run the ball a little more than Buffalo does. So Allen has, I think, the higher potential to go off, in my opinion, for a big game today. But also he has a higher potential to cause turnovers. Obviously, he has a big arm, but sometimes that big arm can be quite inaccurate. Running back positional battles, I'm taking the Eagles. They have a slew of running backs who get it done, as I said, Swift, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, those guys. Wide receivers, outside of Stephon Diggs, there's a lot to be desired with the wide receivers position for the Buffalo Bills. So I chose the Eagles. They obviously have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. AJ Brown's had one hell of a season. Just going to pull up the rest of their depth chart here. They also have Almide Zaccheaus in the slot. They also picked up veteran Julio Jones, and Quez Watkins was just elevated from the practice squad. Also, going into tight ends, there's not really much to compare. Obviously, if it was Dallas Goedert versus Dalton Kincaid, I would pick the Eagles, but Goddard is hurt. So I'm taking the Buffalo Bills, Dalton Kincaid. The Eagles' depth chart with the tight end is a lot to be desired. Jack Stoll, Albert Okubegunam, and Noah Togai, should I say. So there's not much there, not much really of a known safety blanket. Maybe they feature Stoll today, who knows. But getting into the offensive line, I'm taking the Eagles. The Eagles are just a phenomenal unit. The Bills have played solid this year. Obviously, Dawkins and Spencer Brown have been bright spots. But Jason Kelce, as we talked about the interior offensive line, Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson is a constant. Jordan Mailata is a constant. Can't really, deny their success and say how they're not better. They are better. Defensive line, I'm also taking Philly as well. Hassan Riddick, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, who's been phenomenal, and Josh Sweat versus the obviously you have the defensive line. It is, I believe, Ed Oliver, Leonard Floyd, Jordan Phillips, and Greg Rousseau. Rousseau's had a good year, but I'd say Reddick has had a better year. Inside line, I'm actually with the linebacker position. They run the same system mostly. I think they both run 4-2-5s, but linebacker, I'm actually going to go with a draw. Both equally similar. Tyrell Dawson, as I mentioned, has had a really good year. Nick Morrow's had a solid year as well, but that also cancels each other out. Both two good linebackers. But continuing secondary, I think that's a draw as well. Obviously, you have the safety play of Reed Blankenship and Kevin Byard, but the Bills also, I think, have the better corners. But special teams, I'm also going to go with Philly. But John, if you want to offer any initial thoughts in this game.
Yeah, so I mentioned, Buffalo, obviously, their offense is, I'd say it was a lot more simpler for them against the Jets. Obviously, they went from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady. And with Buffalo, right, you look at what Josh Allen has around him. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is your number one. I mentioned Andy Isabella getting upgraded to the from the practice squad or elevated, had a really good preseason for them. Gabe Davis has been disappointing, but the two guys that have stuck out recent weeks, Khalil Shakir and also the tight end, Dalton Kincaid, both have been superb the past few weeks for them. Kincaid, their first-round pick this year, showing his ability as a pass catcher. They like to use him a lot of the short to mid-game. Shakir has been a really good outside option for them. He's really stepped up in recent weeks. I really like him a lot this game because I think a lot of the attention is going to Stephon Diggs. So I think Shakir can explode. That would be my stat predictions. But also, so you mentioned him and Dalton Cade. And then Luca with that offensive line again. I mean, they are just maulers up there. You mentioned, I think the Eagles average around 4 yards per carry, and the Bills give up 110 yards on the ground per game. So that is something they're going to have to pounce and attack because they are pretty, as Hayes actually said, it kind of stole the words out of my mouth, said he's correct about the Eagles O-line. They are great. They're the main reason for the Eagles' success and record. And yeah, they have been a dominant unit for a few years, or for years now. So that is going to be a lot for guys like Jordan Phillips and Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Miller, Leonard Floyd, AJ Epineza. Like a lot of those guys are going to have I think they're going to have a tougher time against that Eagles offensive line because they are a big unit, man. They are a huge unit for them. But if you want to get into the stat predictions?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you also mentioned the line, like the Eagles obviously know how to get to the second level really well, especially like I'm assuming they'll use a lot of halfback screens out of the backfield.
Yep.
So getting to the second level, having blockers out in front, challenging that linebacking core is going to be the thing for the Buffalo Bills. But getting into the stats, Josh, lead passer, I think I went with Josh Allen, 325 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I got Josh Allen today, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he's also going to throw a pick.
Okay. So Alex picked Josh Allen as well, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leading rusher.
Let's negate Alex's just because he's not here.
Yes. But leading rusher, I have DeAndre Swift, 12 carries, 75 yards, a touchdown. The Bills struggle with the running, with defending the run. But I think why I'm saying 75 yards and not something like 100 for Swift is because, again, they have so many backs who could do it so well and get those really good yards. But, John, who do you have leading the rushers? Leading the rushers, should I say?
I got Swift as well. I got him at 14 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. So we're very similar. I just have him a little higher.
Leading receiver, I have A.J. Brown, who's had a phenomenal season, 8 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown.
I got Khalil Shakir today, 6 receptions, 100 yards, touchdown. This dude has been very sneakily good over the past few weeks.
Leading tackler, I have Reed Blankenship with 8 tackles. John, who do you have?
I got Kevin Byard at 9 tackles. So
okay. Leading sacker, I have not Leonard Floyd. I'm sorry, Hassan Riddick with 1 sack. Who do you have?
I have Leonard Floyd at 1.5 sacks. But Armin giving out his prediction, and shout out to Kenny in the chat. What is up,
Kenny?
man?
Hope as well, bro.
And Almighty telling us Rodgers may practice this week. Yeah, we'll get into that another time. It makes no sense for them to play, but we'll go back to the game score prediction. Luca, what do you got?
I have a shootout. I have Buffalo losing 34-24 in Philly, or I should say the city of brotherly love.
I got a much closer game at 27-24 Philly in this one. So that is we all have Philly winning.
That is, yeah. Almighty thinks Kincaid will have a big game. 11 receptions, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a Gronk type performance.
Let's hope. I got him. He's my fantasy tight end now, so we're hoping big things out of Mr. Kincaid.
So if not, if you don't want to offer any final thoughts or you've offered them already, we could break into our fantasy football advice.
Woo! All right. Everyone's favorite time of the week.
Fantasy Start them or time. Sit them.
Yeah, but we have a lot of some notes here. So, guys, remember, if you have any of your questions for fantasy, go ahead and ask. I'll answer. And Socks is here. Oh, my God. What is up, man?
Well, bro.
What is up, Socks? But, Luca, can you actually, because it's going to help for the betting segment too, can you pull up, like, the injuries to, like, receivers, running backs, tight ends? Because we'll go over, after I do fantasy advice, we'll go over that and then go into the betting. But we got fantasy football advice. All right. So quarterbacks, and remember, I don't like to do the top guys. So that's why I find guys value or try. That's a sprinkle every ounce. But we'll start with quarterbacks, right? So here's someone, I think we talked about Baker last week or the week before that. He's quarterback 17 right now, but he's been, past 4 weeks, he's been really good. He's hovered around the 8 to 12 range. So that's been really good. Remember, he's not the greatest guy. He's 30 yards per attempt, and
Yeah.
16th in passer rating. However, he's got a really great matchup this week. So maybe if you have an elite guy, you don't start him over that. But if you need someone to start, Baker's going against the Indianapolis Colts defense, who have allowed the second highest passer rating to quarterbacks. So that is something that is very important there to take note of, because that is pretty much saying that in other words, like he's gonna get his chance or yards. We got a question for Mr. Sox. We got to help out Sox. He's asking Gabe Davis or Adam Thielen. So I'm assuming you only got one spot available for this. So we did just talk about Buffalo. Gabe Davis, right? He's been a very big disappointer this year. He was supposed to be that number 2 to Stephon Diggs, but he simply hasn't. The Eagles, they play a lot of the single high safety, and that's something that just isn't going to really help him. And the Eagles, they've allowed the 7th fewest yards to deep passes, or 7th fewest yards to like deep pass attempts, I should say. So that really hasn't been a something that works into Gabe Davis's matchup. And then you have Adam Thielen, who I would start over Davis, because
I would too.
He's ranked 13th in red zone targets of wideouts. So Bryce Young, one of his favorite guys. And you can see a little bit of resurgence here, because he's going to play because Carolina has the Titans. He's going to go up against Amani Hooker, who has really struggled this year. So I would start Adam Thielen over Gabe Davis, Sox. So that's my advice to you. But nevertheless, as I have my other notes here, I mentioned a rough schedule last week for Geno Smith, and it kind of is starting to put into fruition, But here's a guy that, despite a rough schedule, because we just talked about the game, that it doesn't matter to me. Jalen Hurts, right? Because the Philadelphia Eagles have a tough schedule. Doesn't mean they'll win every game, but it shouldn't affect Jalen Hurts' fantasy value. Let's take a look at this, right? He's second in fantasy points per game at the quarterback spot, only behind his opponent today, Josh Allen. 6th in yards per attempt, and 11th in passer rating, so he's got that to him. And, I have to say, he hasn't run that much as he did last year. He only had 2 games over 40 rushing yards. So that isn't, what is there. But he's still putting up his points. I mean, the Eagles still get plenty of volume of scoring. So don't panic on Jalen Hurts. Still a very good, starter. Even though he's a tough matchup, he's still a very good, start every week guy. So don't stress on him. Another guy. So now we're going to go into running back here of note. Royce Freeman's not going to play because Kyren Williams is back.
Yes.
Maybe I was a little wrong on him, because I didn't like him at first in the beginning of the year. I thought he was too touchdown dependent, but he does play a lot of snaps when he's the lead back, and he's going to get that again because now he's back over of Royce Freeman. I don't know if I said Royce Williams, but I meant Royce Freeman.
Yeah, you said Royce Freeman. You're good.
And that is something, he played between 65 and 100% of the snaps Williams did when he was healthy, and he's done a much better job. But he's got a good matchup against Arizona, because they allow 4th highest yards before contact, and they are 14th in the explosive run rate for the analytics. So that is something that is not a very good defense for Arizona. So I would definitely want to start Mr. Kyren Williams.
Yeah.
Another guy at the running back spot that I wasn't maybe too high on, but now I feel like he's a fine running back too. Rachaad White. He's been ranking 11th in fantasy points a game at the running back spot, right? But he's not he doesn't force missed tackles or explosive run. That's why I didn't like him. But again, he's been much better in recent weeks, and they've been using him a little bit in the passing game more. So that's probably where a lot of the value is. And, I think he's been actually questionable with a knee injury this week. So, but if he's healthy, this is a guy you could start, because you look at some of his stats, right? This year as a receiver, he's got 10 catches, 41 receptions, 354 yards, and a touchdown. So he's been, he's got more receiving yards than he already did last year, right? So
Yeah.
he's at he averages 8.6 yards per reception. So they feed him a lot out of that backfield. That is something to take note of, and something I didn't really see earlier, but it's really, really developed. Now, here's something that we'll go into the receiver group here, right? Here is something maybe to keep caution of or keep wary of, right? Somewhat like the Chiefs receivers, right? You
Yeah.
saw that Monday night performance, right? Here's something you see Justin Watson getting his targets now. I don't really like that or his thing because he's gotten good target share at 25.6% last week, and the air yard share was really good too. He's had a red zone target each of the last 2 games now.
Right.
And he's been, it's been better. It has been better. But I don't know if it's just too much of a crowded backfield and no one's really separated themselves. So I don't know how consistent it's going to be. So I'd hold off. If you want to add him for depth in case an injury happens, go ahead. But I wouldn't say, the Chiefs receivers are going to be, not that anyone's like starting a Marquez Valdez-Scantling or any of those guys. But that is not someone that I saw, he's starting to get added a little bit. Then he dropped a little. But I'd hold off on the Chiefs receivers. And then you look at other stuff, right? In terms of the receiver room, as I have my notes. A guy that I know I've been asked about quite a bit in the early beginning of the season, Zay Flowers, right? It's been really hard to determine with Baltimore receivers. I don't like Odell. I've said that many times going forward.
Let me ask this. Odell, don't you think he's going to get more targets with the Mark Andrews injury?
That's where I'm going very soon.
Okay.
So, hold your horses, man. Hold those horses. But Zay Flowers, right? I think he was also questionable with a hip. He had a full session on Friday, though, so that should be good. Without Mark Andrews, in week 1, because remember how those stats were, Flowers was targeted at 45.5% of the target share and 60% of first read share. And first read share means it's pretty much the quarterback's first option.
Yeah.
That's basically how that's it's kind of like targets plus that. And I forgot the exact math on it. But then that it dropped a little with Andrews back, but now he's out again, and the Chargers have allowed the 12th most points per PPR points per target to perimeter wide receivers, and that's what Zay Flowers is. So I think he's at least a flex play, and you can maybe get away with even starting him as your second wideout. But Barbara's saying, tell Alex to have fun at the game. I'll be watching, and we'll make sure Alex doesn't have fun.
Yes.
And then also, Kenny's saying, I got White starting this week. He's been good as a running back too. Yeah, I completely agree. I kind of undervalued him, and I'd say that for sure. Tank Dell has been his best pickup. So is mine. Tank Dell, I got him in a trade a few weeks ago. He's been amazing. Talked about him last week if you want to go check that out. But Zay Flowers is someone I would definitely keep in mind. But there's another Baltimore guy that I really do like for this week, and that's their backup tight end, Isaiah Likely. If you have 2 tight end league, you can start him. See how he does this week, but Likely is, this year he's been more used to the run game. But we've seen him produce a lot of numbers when Andrew's been out in the past, right? In 5 career games without Andrews, he's had 67% of the snaps played, and he's finished every game with at least 7 targets. So volume is there, man. I'm telling you, he's only owned. I picked him up this week for depth. 30% of ESPN leagues. I'm telling you, Andrews is a guy that is really good, and Isaiah Likely is going to carry that. So that's someone that I really liked there. And once I saw Andrew go down, I'm like, I gotta get it. I have to get it because he just gets the targets. Here was someone that I wasn't sure on, but the tight end group for the Chargers, right? So Gerald Everett is their starter.
Right.
And he's been questionable going into this matchup. Someone I wouldn't mind as for some depth, Donald Farnham. He's not owned in a lot of leagues. If Gerald Everett is not playing, then that is someone that you could probably target and maybe even start if you have a lot of tight end injuries. But that is just something as Almighty's asking me this week, do you start Mike Evans? Mike Evans this week, right?
Colts.
Yes, I just mentioned that. He's someone you definitely want to start. Again, second in deep targets, and that's something the Colts really struggle against. And Colts, they do play a lot of zone, and against zone, Evans is 21% of the target share, 42% of the air yard share. So I'd start Mike Evans in a heartbeat. And Almighty's asking about Trey McBride. Trey McBride is someone I outlined last week. Dude, Trey McBride should be started every freaking week. He is a beast. He gets the targets. He gets the yards per reception. And against the defense and the Rams that don't do well against tight ends, he is someone I definitely would start. Easily am starting.
Absolutely. I have McBride on one or two teams of mine. Did you know, by the way, like this is a non-fantasy note. CJ Stroud was locked out of his locker room.
Wait, what?
CJ Stroud, the Jamal Adams meme. That's what happened to CJ Stroud.
In reality, today?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm like trying to think of that meme again.
Laporta's been an excellent pickup, by the way, for me.
He has. They're both great. You might want to start one at tight end and the other as your flex.
Very much so. Very much so. But any starting defenses to pick up or just
no? So I looked at that, right? I didn't write it in the doc, but I got to go back to that because they were in my notes. But a defense that's that's kind of been, sneaky good-ish, right? The Colts have been doing better in the past week. The other streaming defense was the Jets. They're starting to get dropped, but a lot of the defenses have been the same for a while. So that was the one thing. Sox asking New England or the Giants. Well, it's really whose offense you trust less.
It's like it's very level. It's like if any defense like plays better, it's gonna be like by a quarter of an inch. Like you truly don't know. Like I'm not even a fantasy expert, and I could tell you that I wouldn't know who to choose. But again, Mac Jones sucks. Tommy DeVito just won his first game, so I wouldn't know because the Patriots defense is always very competitive. Also, is T. Higgins drop or keep?
That's a good one because I'm in a similar situation. I got Jamar Chase, right? And with that, it's more so it's so hard because he's also been injured too.
Right.
So that's I mean, I wouldn't necessarily drop him just because I like him, but I wouldn't be playing him if I'm being honest.
Right.
That's my opinion.
I got the Patriots versus Giants this week. Giants got picked up in my league, so I guess you're probably gonna take the Patriots defense.
He's got the Pats defense. Okay, I mean, well, I don't really think you can go wrong either way,
right?
Because they both.
It's a win-win. It's going to be a very, very,
it's Tommy DeVito or Mac Jones, right? That's the.
Yes, it's.
I almost threw up saying that, but
again, the margin of error is like not the margin of error. The margin of like between the two is not that big. It's like a quarter of an inch. If it's going to be like one of those 12-9 games.
12-9. That's so bad. Almighty's saying I pick up whoever the Jets play at start. You know what? That's actually a really good strategy. Find bad offenses and stream those defenses.
Exactly.
Kenny's saying it might be a 10-7.
Very much so. Very much so.
Sox laughing. Who do you trust? No, it's true though. Who do you trust less? That's the truth. They both suck. They both suck, man.
But John, any more fantasy advice before we get to the bets?
If anyone has any more questions, you guys can ask. I almost said ask, but you can ask along, and we'll go into some of the games this week, right? Luca, do you want to pull up the BetMGM board?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
BetMGM. Right. I know I do. I know I do BetMG. I don't. I do BetUS, but I'll pull up BetMGM right now. All right, so we have the screen here. I know maybe you'll be able to see, maybe you won't. But if you want, I can obviously read them out.
That's fine. I got it.
Here you go.
So I mean, I'm just gonna give more so of a lean in every game. with how I think how I think
How do you think these will all pan out?
pan out. Yeah, I'll try and give my best. Some games might not have. Remember, it's a shorter board this week.
Yeah,
But
because of the Thanksgiving games.
the Giants Pats, I wouldn't. I was looking at the spread, right? 3.5 for the Giants. Pats suck, but
That says
also
minus
like
4.5.
Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks is like 22-6 or 22-7. So I wouldn't really want to bet on either team favored. I guess I'd lean the under at like 35. I don't see how either team is getting
I agree.
above 17 points
I completely agree.
at most. So Sox saying it might be a popularity contest, but
He's talking about Mac Jones being a Pro Bowler for one.
oh yeah, that's true. That could be. He did have a good rookie season, but he's just been awful since. But even like that, I'm not really high on the Giants, and the spread has actually moved to 4.5.
Yeah.
So if you want to take the Giants spread, you could, just because you're banking against the Patriots. But I like the under 35.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close game. Obviously, I think it's either to me, it's like obviously the spread is now 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went to, in my opinion, I'm no betting expert. I would take the Giants plus 4.5 because it's going to be like a three. It's going to be a field goal type of game.
Yeah, it's just like literally, it's the same question in the fantasy: who sucks more?
Exactly.
Who sucks more? Who sucks more? That's the $1 million question. But this game really good, really good. I guess value the next game, the Eagles Bills. Right? I actually like the Bills at a +3 because there's a system here that Now I don't think the Bills are going to win, but I think they can cover because I was reading a trend. Right? Teams playing at home after facing the Super Bowl champs, right? They're 0-6 in their last 6 matchups against the spread. So the Eagles are that team. They just faced the Super Bowl champ, the Chiefs, even though they won. But teams after that are 0-6 against the spread. Just a system play. I don't think the Bills are necessarily going to win it. I could see an upset happen because I think that line has stayed firm at 3, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But +3 Bills. I feel it's more of a pick'em game, but nevertheless, that's a good one. Jags Texans. I thought this was a really tougher game because these two teams are so good, and I was trying to find where like the good value is. Some people were saying Jaguars money line because that actually is at a -125. But I like the Texans in this game. Now I could be wrong. I don't know what team is going to win because it's going to be a very close game in my opinion. That line is stayed firm at 1.5. So that's I mean, maybe the over at 48, but that's also a tough line too. That's a very good number. So maybe you don't bet that game. Bengals, Browns, I'm telling you, home divisional dogs hit more often than not.
You mean Bengals, Steelers?
I like the Bengals here at 2.5. They don't have to win. And everyone's like, oh, it's they have their backup in there. We don't know what he is. But yet again,
keep in mind the Steelers have no idea how to score.
The Steelers' offense is so ugly.
Let me ask this. They fired Canada last week, so this is going to be their first week without him, right?
Correct. So I don't know how they're going to do. Maybe they do really good, but I don't see a lot of points. Panthers, Titans. I mean, if you want to pick in this game, sure. That's not something
It's such a weird game.
It's such a bad game. Like that's going to be an ugly game. Like I am. How about? I don't even know because I originally my football brain says the Titans are going to win, and maybe they'll probably get I think maybe the 3.5 spread is good. They'll probably win by more than 3.5, just because I feel like they got beat up a lot. It might be a good buy low spot for them, but it's like they're so bad, these teams. So another one, Saints Falcons. Remember these the home divisional dogs, Falcons. Good system here, 1.5. But I do have the Saints winning just because I think they're a better team.
I do too.
So here's a football play that I like. I like the over 45 in this game for the Colts Bucks. And that's because their passing defenses both aren't the greatest.
Yeah, I agree.
I can see the clock being stopped a lot. I could see a lot more points in this game. I think 45 is a little bit of a low number in terms of that. I'm also just I'm not looking at the games, which I probably should be on your screen. I'm kind of just looking at like what's on my notes. Browns Broncos, not a game I really want to touch. I just don't. I mean, the Broncos are favored, but the Browns have detail. Like I don't know about that one. Maybe the under 37.5 if you want to lean.
Right.
Here's a really good one, right? I like the Cardinals money line here at plus 130. I think Kyler Murray's being really undervalued right now. And I think the Cardinals are a little undervalued with him because they started off horribly without him.
Right.
So I think that's a really good one to hit. Plus 130. You can even take the plus 3 points if you don't think they're going to win. But I think this started as an even game. And, Cooper Kupp's been banged up. Rams haven't been that great.
They're very so-so.
I like the Cardinals plus 130 there. I know the Cardinals are not good, but they've been better with Kyler.
Yeah. They've been at least competitive.
Yeah. Chiefs, Raiders. I like the under 42.5. That's probably a really good one in my opinion. It's another divisional game, right? So I would take the under there. I don't have a game really in the spread because Mahomes is better in the closer games, but also the Raiders, like I'm not like banking on them covering 9 really.
Yeah.
I don't think the Raiders
they'll at least stay competitive for a bit, but I think the game will be blown out of proportion.
Yeah. But I do like the under 42.5. I prefer that. The Raiders can't score, and even if the Chiefs were to put up 30, I don't see the Raiders putting up more than 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, true.
We talked about the Bills, Eagles, Ravens, Chargers. I actually like the Chargers in this spot at plus 3. Now I think the Ravens are going to win, but remember the Chargers are always better when they're a dog. They are always better. When they're an underdog, they always perform. When they're favored of like more than 3, then you can avoid them. That's exactly what happened last week, and I told you both. And when we were doing game picks, y'all picked the Chargers, I picked the Packers, and the Packers won. The Chargers whenever they are a favorite, they are the team to avoid. They are terrible as a favorite. Whenever they're a dog of like 3 or more, that's when they usually cover.
I could bet on the covering.
And then the Bears Vikings, right? I guess for a Monday Night Football play, if you want one, I'm trying to think more.
Do you think this is like it's not going to be a complete shutout, but do you think this is going to be like a somewhat scoring game? Because the Vikings defense is probably at least
they've gotten better too.
They have.
I'm just trying to think football and betting brain because these are divisional rivals, right? I would probably I feel like the Vikings -3 spread is too good. I think that's a tough one, man. The Bears have played better in recent weeks. Maybe you take the under 44, but I don't even know because the Bears defense is awful. I could see them giving up more than 30 and screwing it up. But my best bet, Jacob, I really like
Cardinals money line.
I like the Cardinals money line. I like the Chiefs Raiders under at 42.5. And I like the Colts Bucks over 45. That's my opinion. But Alex, your brother, talking about his big breakfast, saying he had bacon, eggs, yogurt, waffles, choice of omelet. I don't know if he had all of that.
Alex doesn't like omelets because he doesn't like eggs.
Yeah. So he's just telling there's the Giants like the Cardinals money line too. Well, yeah, because it's the tank bowl, yes. But nevertheless, Jacob, with some college basketball news. Mark Stoops says he's staying at Kentucky after multiple reports this weekend that linked him to head coaching. at a vacancy at Texas A&M. That is very interesting, in my opinion. But that is a topic for a different day. And shout out to Greg in the chat. What is up,
What's
man?
up, Greg? I hope all is well. For the
We,
second, I think it's the second straight week I'm doing this as my page is loading. I think I'm actually gonna take your advice on the Cardinals bet. I'm gonna take them on the money line.
I also, guys, I do like that that Eagles spread, a Buffalo covering of 3. I think the Eagles are going to win, but I can still see Buffalo losing by 1 or 2.
Even though I have the Eagles winning by like, I don't
It's
know,
just a good system. That's all. That's it.
no, it is. It's definitely a good system.
Sometimes you see a system and like, that might be something good of note. But Luca, did you get me those injuries?
Well, I'm gonna go through them right now. NFL key injuries. We'll put it that way.
Because that's going to help us with our prize picks.
Okay, so let's see. So wide receiver. Oh, all right. Let's go into this. No, this is not the week that I was looking for. Week, yeah, it says okay, 2023, not week, not 2022. Okay, so let's go into it. Let's start off with let me give you a good game too. Steelers Bengals. George Pickens was fine. Bengals. T. Higgins is out. Obviously, we know that.
I'm not betting. I'm not betting on any Bengals receivers.
Though. No. Zay Jones questionable is as listed by NFL. What?
He should be back. I said.
Okay, so Zay Jones is one person. Noah Brown, you said, is out. Obviously, Damian Pierce is coming back. I think it was Schefter. Robert Woods is going to play. Robert Woods doesn't even have a game status, but he didn't even participate in practice, so that's kind of up and down. I'm gonna give you a news report on that. I'm gonna see if I can find one that's accurate. Woods. He sat out of Wednesday's practice, but I guess maybe he's playing. But because he doesn't have official game status. Patriots, Giants. If you really want to know, Matthew Slater's questionable, but he's more of a special teamer. Devontae Parker is questionable with a concussion. I haven't seen a news report on that yet. I'm going to get that for you. Devontae Parker. Okay. Let's see. Questionable for Sunday's contest. I don't think there's any official word, so it's questionable right now. For the Giants, I don't see any noteworthy receivers that we have to keep an eye on, or running backs. Saints, Falcons, Kendra Miller's out. No other notables that's for the Saints. For the Falcons, Mac Hollins is out, which is interesting. Move to Bucks, Colts. Chris Godwin was an eliminated participant in practice, but he does not have a game status, meaning likely he will probably play. Rashad White is questionable, but I think
he should be playing.
Yeah, he should be playing. Getting to the Colts, nothing there. Rams, Cardinals, listed on the report. Cooper Kupp is banged up. He's questionable right now.
What is Puka Nakua's receiving yards then? Because he's banged up. The football's got to go somewhere.
You mean the bet? You mean the receiving yards on the season, or like his?
I'm looking at his total today is at 62.5 is Puka. I like that a lot, actually. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think the ball's going to go to Puka. I think that's a really good play. If you guys want a prize picks play for one of them, Puka Nacua at 62.5.
I know Justin Jefferson's not going to play. I got I don't have to scroll through every injury now. The CBS article. Roll this down. Just Puka Nacua. Okay, so Marquise Brown is questionable with a heel injury. Let me look at his status because this is also regarding my fantasy team. If I'm end up starting him, Brown at the moment, I know he was a pickup that I recently made. He's expected to play. Marquise Brown is expected to play. Nothing much on the Cardinals fight. Browns, Broncos. Marquise Goodwin is questionable with a concussion. No, he's actually out with the concussion injury. No, nothing for the Broncos. Vegas Raiders versus the Chiefs. Not really any notable injuries except Kadarius Toney's out. Surprise. Jerick McKinnon is out, and so is McCole Hardman, who just got placed on IR. Bills, Eagles. Not much going. Quez Watkins is questionable, but that really doesn't matter because he's probably like the fourth receiver. Ravens, Chargers, Jalen Guyton is questionable, and so is Gerald Everett. Zay Flowers is questionable, expected to play. Odell is expected to play. Charlie Kolar is probably expected to play. Moving to another game, Bears-Vikings tomorrow, where Justin Jefferson's questionable, but I doubt he plays. And for the Bears, there's Deontay Foreman, but he's going to be far back behind.
Jordan Addison's at 49.5 receiving yards. That's something I really like too. I would hit the over on that for Prize Picks.
So real quick, there's some comments per Adam Schefter. Jake Browning will become the 50th different starting quarterback to start a game this season, which is actually down from last year. Through 12 games last season, there were 53 different starting quarterbacks. Through 12 games of the 2021 season, there were 50, and through 12 games of the 2020, there were 52.
Okay.
Cup is playing.
Yeah, Cup is playing, but he's going to be nicked up.
Jett is not playing. I think they said he's going to return next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Regardless, that 49.5 of Jordan Addison, that is really good.
So we want to move to Prize Picks.
Yeah. Jordan Addison and Puka Nacua are guys I like. I wonder also, because I picked him up in fantasy, Isaiah Likely. What's his yardage at? Where's he
We could
at?
look it up.
Let's look at the
Isaiah
Prize Pick boards. For anyone that wants.
Okay, this is NBA, so we'll move off the NFL. Isaiah Likely.
Where
you have 30.5 receiving yards.
I would hit that over. Trying to see if they have it on Prize Picks. I don't think they have his name on Prize Picks today. Wow, that would have been a good steal. But I would, if you want to take a straight bet, 30.5, I would definitely take that. That
Lamar likes his tight ends.
Oh, I found it. 30.5 on Prize Picks too. That is another one that I would probably do.
30.5.
He's going to get a lot of targets. I think 30.5 is very, very low, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something that I definitely am. The 30. I think that's too low. I like those three. So we got Addison. We got Likely for Prize Picks, and then I said Puka Nacua. That's right. Trying to see who else is on the board that's available.
Let's see. All right, so this is the board, I guess.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too right now. We're almost done. Tail end of this one, guys. But just want
any specific stat you want me to look at? Receiving yards, pass rush.
I've been looking at the receiving yards, but trying to see what else is there. Trying to see what else we got.
Let's see.
Maybe we'll look at quarterbacks too. We'll look at passing yards.
Yeah, we could go back to quarterback and passing yards.
CJ Stroud's at 272.5. I like that to go over. Dude has hit like 300 yards in.
What about Baker 244.5?
You could probably hit the over on that too because the Colts have a bad defense. Jacob, we are doing a call-in show, so if you guys want to do pop in tonight, 8:30, we're starting.
Yes.
We'll be on for about 2 hours or so, maybe a little more, less, depending on how many callers we get. But we'll be doing it. You can ask us any questions. Okay, we don't bite.
Kyler Murray 230 and 3.5. Now it's moved to 227.5. You're taking the over on that?
227.5. Maybe not on that one, but because he also uses his legs a lot, so that's something I would.
Let me move back into this because my screen got canceled.
Be wary of.
There you go.
One, I'm looking at also rushing yards. One thing I would definitely hammer the under on was Saquon Barkley. His Prize Picks has jumped to 74.5 rushing yards. New England's better against the run. I don't think he's going to get to 74 today. I just got a feeling.
Plus, New England might just stack the box.
They do. And Javonte Williams, he was down here as well for tomorrow's game. Or not tomorrow's game. I'm sorry.
This afternoon.
This afternoon's game. I don't know. He's at 55.5. I think I would take the under on that. against Cleveland's run defense. They don't. Jalen Warren's really the only guy that's touched them, but you saw their starter Najee Harris. He did nothing against them.
He's
That's someone I would take an under on. I'm just looking at.
I'm also going to load up what Ben MGM says. Just give me one second here.
You can do that.
I bookmarked one of the tweets that I wanted to show you. Not show you, but
I also do like Lamar Jackson's 234.5 passing yards. I like the over there.
Yes, I would agree with that.
That is a very good one. Chargers not a good pass defense, right? And then something else that I did see that I like because it actually had to do with your game, Luca, that you covered, the Bills and Eagles game. Well, I mentioned him a little bit, and Dalton Kincaid has been fantastic, and I believe he is at 50. He's actually jumped up to 51.5. I'd still play the over on that. So
let me ask this. I got two prop bets. This is actually courtesy of our friends at the Jets Way podcast. They are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. They gave their 2 picks of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Evans over 64.5 receiving yards and DeAndre Hopkins over 59.5 receiving yards. Would you take either of them or both?
What were the numbers again?
Mike Evans 64.5 receiving yards, hit the over. DeAndre Hopkins 59.5 receiving yards, hit the over.
I'd probably take the over on both. They're both against really bad defenses. Probably would take the over.
So Mike Evans, I will take that. I also took the Lamar Jackson bet.
That's something that's good too.
Mike Evans receiving yards line has moved to 66.5, but I'm still sticking the over. We also mentioned likely. We mentioned Javonte Williams hitting the under.
Yeah. Jacob's asking Kyler Murray over 36.5 yards. That's a good line for him. I don't know if it's gonna hit over or under. Tommy DeVito's is he really had 14 rushing yards? How many did he get last week?
Let's pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Murray.
You want to look up the how many rushing yards he's had? Evan's asking, how do you think Matthew Stafford does today? I think he does pretty good. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game. I don't think the Rams are going to win, but I think the Cardinals are.
DeVito's at 14.5 rushing yards.
No. But how many did he get last week? That's
okay. I'll look that up for you.
Asking. That's what I was. I don't know.
Tommy DeVito last week. Look up the numbers, the game individual splits. Rushing yards. 7 yards.
Yeah, I would hit the under. I don't think he runs that much anyway, so I think we're gonna go with the under there, Jacob. But in case you wanted to have a Giants bet today. But nevertheless, that's all I have, unless you have more. If you guys have more questions.
So obviously we hit Lamar Jackson and Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
What other bets did we suggest? Obviously, we said DeVito with the under. I'm not really going to take DeVito because that's.
I remember the receivers I gave likely, Addison and Nakua. Addison was at 49.5. Like that's so low in my opinion. I think that's a really good one to hammer.
Bastards at Underdog don't have the over under for receiving yards. They only have fantasy points, rushing, and receiving touchdowns, and targets. Bastards. What was it? We said?
They got Luca cursing up a storm now.
Puka Nakua. Let's see.
Well, Jacob, we'll see you tonight, man. We hope all you guys call in. We like all you guys in the chat. Whether you poke fun at us, whether you ask questions.
We'll of course. So, 61.5 receiving yards for Puka. I should take the over, right?
I think so. I think he hits at least 70 to 80. Like the Cardinals are not a good defense. Like they do not have a good secondary, man. And that if Cooper Kupp's banged up a little bit, because remember he's been nicked up.
Yes, he has.
So, and I looked at him. He's at like 69.5. I don't know if he's going to hit it, but I can guarantee Puka Nakua is going to have a good day. I think. I like that one.
I'm just going to share some other info regarding to.
Yeah, Alex, I think you should take the over on DeVito. You know what?
Says the guy who says, I don't do betting and all that shit. Now he's giving advice. Now he's giving advice.
Yeah, he's the expert now. Not that we're experts, but these
right,
are
of course,
opinions.
But also I was going to get to this tweet here, And that is, we'll just remove that. So this is per BetMGM. This is the what they Wager Wire's NFL betting highlights. Obviously, most bet games this week is actually Bills, Eagles, Ravens, Chargers, and the Steelers, Bengals. Most bet teams: Eagles -3, Ravens -3.5, and Steelers -2.5. Most bet teams on the handle: -3 Eagles,
I love
-1
how I said
Jaguars.
I like to bet against them. And you know what? I am confident in that because if you remember, Luca, if you pick against the public, usually you do good.
Yeah.
Maybe not this year, but usually it happens.
Some player props as we just recovered. Their tickets, obviously they have the odds stacked with them. For Bet MGM, the most bet player props, Jalen Warren over 48.5 rushing yards. They're going against the Bengals. Maybe that's interesting. Derrick Henry over 69.5. I think the Panthers, there was a certain stat out there. I actually might take Derrick Henry tonight against the Carolina Panthers because they're one of the worst rushing defense. I think they allow like 100 yards per something.
He's been bad though.
Henry?
Henry's not been good this year. It's the only thing.
Let's see. They also got the others. Stephon Diggs over 6.5 receptions. Maybe you take that. Evan Ingram over 4.5 receptions. Russell Wilson under 189.5 passing yards.
For the Broncos, who do they play? They play the
Browns.
I would take the under. They have such good defense. Man.
But let me see if I can build, and I'm just gonna look at Derrick Henry's stats for the past week.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said he hasn't been good.
He hasn't been good. I might even take the under there. Yeah, it's too high for him.
Ooh, I don't like these numbers. 38 versus the Jaguars and 10 carries, 11 carries, 24 yards against the Bucks.
Take the under. Take
right.
the under. I would.
The rushing yards. Should I also take the rushing attempts because it's 16.5 right now, and he has not averaged 16.5 or close to that since the Steeler game on Thursday night.
Maybe, yeah, that's actually a good point.
So I can only bet on one of the Derrick Henry stats. So you know what? I'll go with the rushing yards is a better bet in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so just gonna get one more in. I already went with the likely bet. Let's see. Let me go back to my tweet that I saved. Wager Wire. I'm gonna make this one pick, and then we're gonna obviously give our final thoughts. Let's see. Here we go. How are the Bengals in rushing defense? They're not too good, right?
No.
So let me look at Jalen Warren's stats from the last couple of weeks because he's been getting more of the touches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the over. Last week against the Browns, 129 yards. The previous week against the Packers, 88. And then, no, I'm sorry, that was 101. And then now against the Titans, it was 88. So I'm going to hit that over.
Yeah, that makes
It's at 51.5, which is surprising. But, John, you want to offer your final thoughts? And Armin has a great comment.
A-bomb. Great news, Jets fans can relax and enjoy football today. The dipshit Jets are not playing today. Yes, we know. That's why we are smiling because we can't lose today because we already lost. So don't worry. The tunnel is at the end of the light.
The tunnel's at the end of the light. We can all we can root for other teams to lose, I guess. But when depending on draft position, excuse me.
We hope Alex has a very good time at today's Giants.
We hope that the Giants win. We hope that the Giants
win.
Win.
Let's go Giants.
But,
I picked that. We picked the Giants. We think they can beat the Packers.
Yeah, Alex is like, yeah, I'll pick the Patriots. But obviously, as John has mentioned, we're obviously all happy that the Jets are not playing today. Thank God you get to actually watch football, not caveman football. But anyways, saying stop, Luca,
stop, Lucas.
No winning for the Giants. Yes, they're allowed to win games. The players play for a contract.
Hey, you know what? If they win, they go on a winning streak. All right.
Yes, winning streak. But in terms of my final thoughts, obviously we went through the betting, obviously some competitive games today. We went through the bets, we went through all the fantasy advice we could give. But folks, as John said, tonight It is the last Sunday of the month of November, almost close to the end of the year, which is actually freaking amazing because time flies by so fast. But anyways, last last Sunday of the month means tonight's a call-in show. If it's also a Q&A session. If you guys don't want to call in, you can go in the chat, ask your questions about sports, anything related to sports. Again, we'll post the StreamYard link, call in. We usually go about 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on the callers. But we encourage new callers to come in, new guys. But even the same old ones like Armand and all of them, we accept them as well. We really want to talk to you guys, really get to know you guys.
8:30, Armand. 8:30.
8:30 is the call-in show. Yes, sir. So, with that being said, I want you all to enjoy your day of football, no matter who you root for, no matter who you root against, whatever. Keep an eye on those bets, obviously, fantasy advice. But guys, we'll see you later. Remember, 8:30 call-in show. We really appreciate it. And have a good afternoon.
Don't drink and drive.